Greetings and welcome to Stamper Cinema, the film discussion podcast where you choose it, I watch it, and we discuss it. As always, I am your friend, but I am your friend. I am your host. My name is Andrew. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm a little, you know what? We're doing this live. This is the first time we've ever done a actual video version of this podcast. So, yeah, it's a little bit different. But if you are new to the show, thank you very much for checking us out. Again, my name is Andrew, and yeah, so we've been doing this show for about, I don't know, I mean, this is the fifth season. We've been doing this for quite some time, but if you are a fan of the show, you know that my all-time favorite guest slash best friend is Mr. John Rowe, who is with us this evening, and I can't wait to officially welcome him on. But I'm going to do a little waffle here for a second, but if you're familiar with the show, you know that John and I have covered many, many, many things, but about 3 or so years ago, he said, I really want to do the Star Wars saga. And I was like, ew, I don't know, because I don't know what John is doing right now, but I do like yeah, there he is. There he is. Again, if you're listening, you can listen, but you can also watch this episode on YouTube. This is the first time we've ever done a YouTube version of this show. But to backtrack a second, John said, let's do Star Wars. And I said, okay, I'll go on this journey. I'm a little hesitant because I think I like fewer Star Wars movies than there are. Actually, I don't know if that sentence made any actual structure. Um, I like a few Star Wars films, and I don't like more Star Wars films than I do enjoy. But I said, you know what, this will be fun because maybe I'm wrong on these, and it'd be fun to kind of like revisit it. So we've done them in complete chronological order. We started with episode one, and now we are going to be doing episode nine, The Rise of Skywalker. But a fun fact, this is now our third attempt at trying to do The Rise of Skywalker. There have been a couple little issues over the past couple years, and we thought maybe this will just be an episode that remains in the vault. But we're like, no, 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 no. May the Force be with you is coming on. May the Fourth be with you is coming on. So we're like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And so here we are. We're going to do it. And I'm so excited because we've got Mr. John Rowe joining us. And John, how's it going, man?
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me, Andrew. Things are going pretty good here. It's getting to be kind of a stormy season in Central Texas. So uh, there's kind of tornado warnings north of us. You might hear some rain in the background or something like that. But things are going well for me. I, first time on in a while, did want to wish you a happy belated birthday. I think you
Thanks,
just had
man.
one pretty recently. Yeah. And so from me and all your fans, happy birthday. And this has been an epic affair that we started. I didn't know what we were getting into, but we've had a lot of fun along the way. So
It is
it'll,
true. It is true.
and, and I totally know what you mean about, I think you're just disappointed. You keep hoping that there's going to be a good one and the nostalgia of your childhood and the originals and how good they were and stuff. But we'll, we're gonna talk lots of Star Wars tonight. So, but I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you know what? A wise person once said that Star Wars, like an episode of Star Wars is a lot like pizza. When it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's still pretty good, right? So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to is even though the fact that some of these Star Wars films aren't the greatest, they're still pretty fun because they're Star Wars. And I can't believe it, man. This is the end of a journey, like now granted, there's a lot of new content in the Star Wars universe, Mandalorian, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Lord knows what else will happen. But theoretically, this is the end of the Star Wars saga, or rather, the Skywalker saga for the cinematic universe. And I'm looking forward to going into a bit of not necessarily a deep dive, but a bit of a deep dive. And I've got, some general things that I'll want to look at, like the legacy and expectations, character arcs, themes, some of the technical aspects as well, some controversies. I wanna,
Mm.
take a couple looks at some potential controversies that affected this particular film and the trilogy as a whole. The bigger picture, where this movie stands, not just in the overall legacy, but the most recent trilogy, what your thoughts are. Is this a fitting conclusion? And, a little bit of a wrap up. And of course, because we've done it many times over, a little bit of a quiz for you. So those are some of the things that I've got. I'm kind of curious, is there anything that you want to bring to the table tonight?
Uh, no, not off the top of my head. Excited about all those. Well, for sure. And the thing is, we've had time now. I mean, in some ways, to look at where these people, what they've been doing for the past 5 years. I mean, it's almost, there's been enough time to, it's like, where are they now? Are they still working?
Yeah.
But yeah. But I don't know where you want to start. I mean, director JJ. I mean, is that also the controversy? A little, I thought one of the
Oh,
whole things was.
yeah. I
I don't
think
know
we'll
if
get
that.
to, I think we'll get, I think we'll get to the controversy and bringing J.J. Abrams back. I think that's also more about the fact that the original director was fired, but I think we'll get into that. But I think the way to go is you got to start with the crawl,
Yeah,
right?
because
You
yeah,
got to start with the crawl.
absolutely. That's
I
gotta
mean,
start
that's
back at
what
the
we've done,
beginning.
right? So
Yeah,
here,
absolutely.
I'll try to bring on my most prepared voice. Here we go. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. The dead speak. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast, a threat of revenge in the sinister voice of the late Emperor Palpatine. General Leia Organa dispatches secret agents to gather intelligence, while Rey, the last hope of the Jedi, trains for battle against the diabolical First Order. Meanwhile, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren rages in search of the Phantom Emperor, determined to destroy any threat to his power. And there you go. So
Dun dun
dun dun dun.
dun.
So what do we get out of that? Oh yeah, by the way, Palpatine, well, he's back.
He's
Uh
back.
yeah. Leia is dispatching secret agents while Rey is finishing her Jedi training, which is interesting because her previous teacher is now dead. So she's all that's left of the Jedi Order, right? And
Sure. Kylo is
Kylo
supreme
Ren,
leader. Yeah, he's in
now
charge.
Kylo Ren is a supreme leader, and
Mm-hmm.
he's seeking out the Emperor and determined to destroy any threat to his power. So you got a little bit
Sure.
of a power struggle that's going on, but I think the first thing that I want to kind of address is right there, the dead speak. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast, threat of revenge in the sinister voice of the late Emperor Palpatine. Um, so I have thoughts. But
Mm-hmm.
this was something that was controversial. Not to like make this like an episode about hot takes, but bringing Palpatine back is a choice, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on
Sure. I mean, in favor of it, in a story arc as long as this one, you usually face the big bad, Saruman character,
that?
somebody maybe who's even defeated death before.
Lord of the Rings.
So I didn't, I don't have a problem. Would I've, rather have been Kylo Ren or some? I mean, they had to have some. If Kylo Ren has a redemption story, somebody has to take the place of the villain.
Hmm.
And with Snoke dead, who's all of a sudden going to come out of nowhere in the third film to be
Hmm.
the big bad villain?
Hmm.
So, in some ways, it may just had to have been Palpatine. So I didn't have a problem with it. It is, out of left field and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that's the way I kind of look at it. In the grand scheme of things, he's always been the bad guy, and
Hmm.
so whenever they go to face the big bad evil thing, like it's the Grand Emperor, and it's not one Death Star. Every ship has a Death Star capability, so it's everything to 11. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, Interesting thought. Like, so I agree in that somebody's got to be like the big bad. You have to have a big bad. Do you
mm-hmm.
think, just out of curiosity, obviously we've covered, and for the listeners, I'll have a link to each and every single episode that John and I have covered for every Star Wars film. So, you know what? You've got nothing to do for the next 13 or so hours. go back and listen to each episode that John and I covered on this very topic. But I'm curious, do you feel they may have, with the previous film, kind of put themselves behind the eight ball or wrote themselves into a corner by killing off Snoke and then like, well, shit, uh, Kylo is the kind of like the big bad, but he has to have somebody worse than him. And Snoke was kind of the guy that we thought would be. And then by dispatching him really easily, well, shit, what do we do now? Well, I guess we'll bring Palpatine back, even though there aren't really many nods within this trilogy that was something that they could do. And if you don't feel that way, fine. I'm just kind of curious, just because of the fact that I do agree there probably should be a overall sinister voice, but if you're gonna kill off said sinister voice and then Kylo is gonna take the reins on that, I feel almost, like maybe you double down on that thought. And in
Mhm.
this film, we it's a full-on ascension into Kylo Ren. And so I don't know. It's I'm just kind of posing a thought because I can see it going either way, but I'm just kind of curious because one, do you think they wrote themselves into a corner, or do you think this could have worked or this did work, but it might have been more effective had they, I don't know, teased a notion. Uh,
Yeah. Well, no, I get your question, and I think the great failure of the series is not having a good showrunner who's going to carry the story from movie to A, B to C.
mhm.
I think there's a lot of what J.J. Abrams did to kind of retcon or to get rid of what they was in the last one, and how they've been working together. You could have a part where Snoke is slowly revealed, or walks into another room and you find out he's possessed by Palpatine, and so you don't even have to go too far from where the story is.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot of that. I just also think that that's were some of my thoughts, though, a long time ago when episode 3 was. It's like, I just want Anakin hunting down the Jedi.
Right.
it's like we all want that movie, and they've never. I mean, they're starting to give us some pretty dark stuff with Andor, but either way, um, I would have liked that. I think that would have been better. Yes, I think they wrote themselves into a corner. I think
Mhm.
J.J. Abrams did a lot to get rid of that. Some of the things he probably didn't like in the last movie. Um, I feel like the only scene. Well, I don't know if we want to get into actors, but like we're talking about Frodo's buddy. Was it Dominic Monaghan or
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
he's got like one little line, and all he says is like, "Oh, that's a one in a million move,"
Yeah.
from
Really
like the last movie.
underutilized like cameo right there.
There's a few underutilized actors in this movie, but what I do think, and with the success or not success, but what I did like about the movie is they were able to get everybody that they pretty much had. It wasn't like an Avengers where they had a showrunner who they got them all at the end and it's emotional and great. But you got Luke, Leia, Lando, Han, Chewie, C-3PO, R2-D2. You got Vader's Mash. You got Palpatine. So that's really where I want to talk about what I think is good about the movie is they were able to get the whole saga into the movie. They were able to kind of give people their dues, and so that's what I did like. Now, what I didn't like is how every scene seems to be like, oh, we lost C-3PO, or ooh, we found a dagger, or Chewie's dead. Oh, but no, Chewie's not dead, and now we need to get on the ship, which helps us move the plot forward.
Yep.
So they were jumping scene to scene. So that's where I thought the real kind of failure of the movie was, I suppose.
Yeah, this just to kind of even tie into Lord of the Rings, just because you brought, Frodo's buddy.
Mm-hmm.
This movie did a little, the Return of the King in the sense that there were some deep fakes on this person said, no, they're not. I changed my mind, right?
Yeah.
And just to kind of like tie into that. But yeah, obviously, I forget what it wasn't a took. It was the other Hobbit. But anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you had some cameos that were kind of brief in the film, but from a story structure, I think some of this, and I apologize, I was looking away because I just wanted to get the filmmaker. So essentially, Colin Trevorrow, I think I apologize if I'm butchering his surname, but Colin Trevorrow, he was originally like hired to be the writer director of this film, and he got shit canned after like in 2017, and so I think he has only like kind of like a story by credit, and his version of the final Star Wars was supposed to be called like Duel of the Fates, and so they kind of like tinkered. So this story does feel a little bit rushed in many ways on what they were doing now. I think there's still a lot of things in this movie that do work. You mentioned J.J. Abrams like retconning some of the shit that happened in the previous movie, and I have thoughts on the previous film, and I think we've covered it in our last episode. I think over time, I think maybe I've softened a little bit on I can't believe I've already forgot the title of episode 8. But I think I've softened a little bit on it just because I think stylistically it's probably the coolest film. Just aesthetically, it looks really neat. I think the action sequences are good, even though there's a lot of things that are happening in the movie that I don't quite follow or understand, i.e uh Leia floating through space in a coma. Like I'll never be okay with that. That just doesn't make sense to me. Just from the film, I understand maybe that it may have been brought up in novels and different cartoons, or maybe it hasn't. I don't know. But cinematically, it just seems strange. It's like, oh, she got blown up and that's how she dies. But anyway, I bring all of that to say is there are things that are going on in this film that I think there is something here. I do feel that there's an element that the movie was rushed, and I do think there's a lot of like fan service in this film to kind of make audience members kind of happy, which is fine because of the fact that realistically, although the first two films of this most recent trilogy critically were kind of okay, the the fan reception was kind of murky in many ways. Certainly the previous version, where the critics loved it and the audiences hated it. And so I don't know if Trevorrow, like whatever his version looked like, but it felt like J.J. Abrams, when he came back to it, wanted to pay a lot of like homage to some of that fan fiction, bringing Lando back. Listen, I love Wedge coming back. That's kind of cool. But just just
Thank
some
you.
other
Yeah.
just some other things, and then even hey, we're gonna kill off Chewie. No, we're not. We're not going to.
Mhm.
Which structurally and story wise, yeah, it would have been a bummer to kill him, but I don't know. I think there's an element of stakes that Chewie dying due to Rey fucking things up might have actually been
Sure.
kind of interesting and been like, oh shit, okay. Now I don't know. I don't know. And maybe that's a different conversation for a different time. But bottom line is, we're 15, 20 minutes, an hour, how I don't know how long we've been chatting. Um, there's a lot going on, and I don't know if there's a clear consensus on what works and what doesn't. So before we get there, we did the crawl, but I just want to kind of like run through what this film essentially is about, and just kind of like a Reader's Digest, for the listener that haven't heard. So this is kind of like how I would break down. I apologize because I kind of like jotted something. So what is this movie about? I kind of like created like a little brief summary of this movie. So essentially, the movie begins with like the shocking return of Emperor Palpatine, and Kylo Ren is searching for searching him because he wants ultimate power. And he finds Palpatine in this hidden world of Exegol where the Emperor reveals he's essentially masked this Sith fleet, which he has called the Final Order. Meanwhile, Rey is still working on her Jedi training kind of through Leia, even though it's kind of unclear that Leia's really doing anything other than having conversations with her. But she's learning through Leia. Um, but her and Finn and Poe essentially go on this, hero's journey, if you will, to find this wayfinder, like kind of like this spherical thing, which is able to locate Exegol and stopping Palpatine and Kylo along the way. And then Rey is grappling with this truth of who she is. She doesn't quite know, but we find out that she's the granddaughter of Palpatine because I guess once upon a time Palpatine was fucking, which is a weird
Uh-huh.
even thing to think about that Palpatine, like to throw
I
down.
got some questions. I don't want to stop you though. I got some questions about that.
But then Kylo and Rey engage in constant, like several different little confrontations. Eventually, Rey mortally wounds Kylo. She then heals himself, and then Kylo has a vision of Han Solo. He sheds himself of like his weak, or rather his dark identity, and reclaims his title back as Ben Solo. So it's his redemption arc, which
Mhm.
again, whether it's rushed or not, whatever, he does reclaim his identity. And then the resistance, i.e., the rebellion, unite for a final stand. So, a la Return of the Jedi 2.0 all over again. And then Rey, with the help of bunch of Jedi spirits, reclaims her own inner strength, confronts Palpatine, beats him, then sacrifices herself, only for Ben to revive her and kill himself in the process. Evil is defeated. Kylo Ren has his redemption. He is now Ben Solo. Rey survives, and then she ends by going to Tatooine and buries Luke Skywalker's lightsabers, and then declares herself as Rey Skywalker, choosing her own legacy and then her own new path, and then fade to black. Why she gets rid of the lightsabers, I don't know. If she's now like, putting on the gauntlet, like, and the identity that she herself is a Skywalker. But that in itself is the film. Would you agree? Did I kind of summarize
Yeah, I
correctly?
think that's a good one. I just
Okay,
I
thank
have so
you.
much to say about. I feel like your talking points. I have something to say about.
Okay. Well, I think
But
that's the plot of the
yeah,
film.
that's the plot.
And with that, I'm going to open up to you while I christen something. I went to Orlando and discovered a really lovely brewery. So this would be the phase when you say, "Hey, Andrew, what are you drinking?"
Hey Andrew, what are you drinking?
So I am drinking something called Yacht Money. It is by the Sideward Brewing Company. This is a New England kind of like hazy IPA, and I haven't had it other than I had a sip, and the sip was really good. But I
Okay.
wanted to get through the first act of our conversation, turn it over to you, and let you kind of break down some of the things that I just discussed.
Oh well, for sure. Well, one of the things like when you're talking about with the last film, which is the Last Jedi, it's almost like trying to find the justifications. Like the worst scenes, obviously Leia getting blown up into space, but now I'm like, oh well, maybe that's how Palpatine lived. If she can get rocketed, shot into space, and somehow live, maybe somehow Palpatine getting thrown off the railing,
Hmm.
he was able to somehow survive in a sense. Because the big thing with Rey and the child are just I still don't have any idea who she is. Like they tried to explain it. It's like, okay, she's the granddaughter, but is she older than Ben Solo? Because
Right.
Ben Solo would have been born after the rebellion and Return of the Jedi. It
Mhm.
seems like he was probably born like Leia had almost completed her training when she got pregnant and quit. But maybe, who knows, maybe she had him first and then was doing her training and had a vision. Oh, speaking of visions, it starts with like they've heard the Palpatine speak from a voice from beyond. It's like I've just seen a whole bunch of movies where the Jedi have been speaking from beyond. Like Ben Kenobi was giving Luke a whole lot of help on Hoth.
That is true. That is
So
true.
it's like it's not like that. The voices and spirits haven't been coming.
Mhm.
So it's a little one sided to say it's just the Sith doing it. That's
Mhm.
what I got to say. All right.
Yeah.
But with the opening and kind of the beginning, you got the Rey doing the training and Kylo's going to war. And the in between scene is Poe and they get back and Poe's mad. He's like, you should be out there fighting. You're the best one. And that's kind of where you get the two people who are on this parallel course to meet each other. And one is out there fighting and the other one's training. And it goes back to the I think it goes all the way back to the Yoda Luke and just like stay and complete your training, which Luke didn't do. So it's kind of the two paths that Luke could have chosen. He could have taken Vader's hand, which is the path that Kylo took. He could have stayed with Yoda and done his training, which is the path Rey's taking now. And on Rey's training, you mentioned Leia. The only other thing I'd want to say is I think she has Luke's journals that
Yep.
she goes off of and reads from. But that's a whole nother thing with his saber. It's like his saber breaks in the other one, and all of a sudden it's together. It's kind of, I would have thought she would have built her own lightsaber to become a Jedi. But I mean, my big thought and theory with the whole thing is that Rey's pregnant. And that's the reason why she's not only burying Luke's, but also Leia's. I believe she has her own lightsaber, which is yellow. But I just think that the whole thing with Kylo and her, I think that there's a lot of tension. I think there's a lot of attraction there. And she force heals him. He kind of gives her some force energy. And so you got this force to force swapping going on.
Little
And
sexual tension.
there's a lot of that tension. And it's all in his hands on her belly and stuff like that. But then, I mean, even the shot of it, like it kind of sinking down in the sand almost might look like I don't know, a seed taking root.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and
Okay.
and I did think of for a second because she looks over and she sees Luke and Leia, but those are also her teachers and mentors. The same way Luke looked over and saw Yoda and Obi-Wan. So it could be that, hey, maybe she's with twins. But it also could be that those are just her teachers and mentors that she had, and she still hears them and sees them, and um, yeah, and honestly, that's kind of one of the true things within Star Wars of I don't know, motif of just like your teachers do live on with you, even if they can't call you on the phone. After they pass, they still you walk in their ways, and you carry their teachings and you pass them on to
Sure.
the next generation.
Yeah, for sure. So I like that. Question for you, just because I ask this in every episode. Where were you when you saw this film for the first time? Do you remember?
I mean, I would have thought it was in Austin. I reckon you were gone by then in 2019.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah. Yeah. I would have
So,
been in Atlanta. Yeah.
yeah, I reckon I probably went to go see it at Alamo. I don't
Alamo.
off the top of my head, but it's just a movie like this, I'd go to Alamo or something. Um, but I was trying to think about like what was going on around then, and what other movies were out that year.
Yeah.
Uh, what was the hit song of the summer? Had COVID started? I'm
Oh my
trying to
God.
remember
What
what
was the
year
hit
that
song
was.
of 2019? Um, I want to claim that it was like Baby Shark. I don't know, but I'm in a different mindset, you know.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe when I'm going on a rant, I want you to pull up like some hit songs of 2019. But here we go.
Yeah.
Let's just take a look at it because of the fact that there's a lot going on. There's a lot of conversations. But I think we backtrack and talk a little bit about Palpatine.
Yes.
What do you think the odds are that somebody would like want a piece of Palpatine? When do you think that would have even happened?
That's the thing with the age is it would have been like whenever he's old
Like a
Palpatine.
senator? Like
No, because
because
of her
like
age. He would have been old decrepit Palpatine by that,
well, I mean, maybe Ray's father is also like 70 years old. Maybe
Okay.
because I mean,
Okay.
you think about it, like who is it? Robert De Niro is like 80 and he's got like
Sure.
teenager kids. It's
Yeah.
possible.
Clint Eastwood's son's working now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he's been working a while, but yeah, I'm just trying to think
Yeah.
of a guy who's like, a grown man now who has, yeah, okay, I could see that, and I
I
could
mean,
see
it's
him being a
weird. It's not, it doesn't make a
politician.
ton of sense. It could happen, yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of different, but yeah, the math, like the math doesn't quite make a ton of sense unless it's like some of these planets are like the Inception planet where you're on there for like
Mm,
10 minutes and you age like 7 years or something, whatever. Did you ever see
sure,
Inception? Not Inception, Interstellar.
sure, I love Interstellar. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They did the
Yeah.
math wrong,
Yeah.
but yeah, uh, but no, I could see it being that way. But that's the other thing is like, or was it a clone? Because where does Palpatine come from now, and where does Snoke come from? Was Snoke a
Yeah. Like, well,
clone of some sort?
apparently he built Snoke. And there were many clones. Like,
Yeah.
and again, it just seems like a write-off and like kind of cheap in many ways. It's just like, oh, we're just gonna write ourselves out of this. I built him. Move on.
Just say it was a clone. Just say it
Yeah.
was a messed up clone, but it was as close as we could get at the time.
Yeah.
You know, because yeah, because cloning exists in this world.
It did
Now,
exist.
cloning for sensitive beings is not that common.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, where did Rey's parent come from? Where did Anakin come from? You know, is he Palpatine's dad, or you know, did he do something, or
Yeah, that is
um,
in the end, right? When if I think of one of the major failures from the original trilogy is introducing this idea of like midi-chlorians and then abandoning it, and then you're left with really nothing that kind of explains Anakin other than like because the mother Shmi or whatever her name was, right?
mm-hmm,
He he was a, Jesus baby, right? Like he just
mm-hmm,
miraculously came to be. They never really explore it beyond the first film. Like that's just kind of like, oh, well, you would think that it's kind of something we would want to know. And then if it was Palpatine that did that, you
yeah,
think there might be an interesting plot to explore his
mm-hmm,
ability to create life and why he chose her, right? I mean, so there are a lot of things that were introduced that were never really explained. So, far be it from me to say that George Lucas was really, focusing on like selling some fucking like Taco Bell Happy Meals, but it seems like he kind of lost the big picture on some of the things he was really some of the ideas that he had because he wanted to have like a political conversation. But when that taco money came in, it seems like some of the things just kind of escape from those sequels a little bit. Um, but because I think there are things that could work. And maybe those are elements that could be explored in some of these TV shows after the
sure,
fact, right? But that doesn't negate the fact that 25 years ago, George Lucas didn't know there would be series of TV show after TV show to fix some of the holes that he had in his own writing, right?
mm-hmm,
And I enjoy the space opera, but there are things that were just built up that just don't, as a result, make sense. And yes, we're all nerds here trying to analyze, a sci-fi fantasy adventure, but this is also a multi-billion dollar enterprise. And it would be good if there were some, I don't know, story structures, especially the fact that when you look at what Star Wars is, which is something that was inspired by Joseph Campbell's, hero's journey kind of idea, it's a very well mapped structure of what a hero's journey is. And you have the idea of what the bads are and the challenges that one will face before they have their own redemption arc, and the sacrifice they'll get. So this is somebody that understands, that understands story structure quite really, really well, especially when you look at some of the other George Lucas works, stuff that he did obviously in the 70s now. Like I'm in sci-fi mode, but his high school 50s, what the fuck is it called? American
about
Graffiti.
graffiti,
Yeah,
American
American Graffiti,
graffiti.
right? So you have that, and then you had his other sci-fi was at THX 1138,
Right.
right? So, you have somebody that understands story, that has written story, created a really interesting, compelling arc. Boom, the original trilogy. Sure, there may be a couple holes, but when the new trilogy came out, say what you want about the Phantom Menace, and I've got many thoughts. It became, there are things that he was interested in exploring even then, but then they just kind of went by the wayside in many ways. And I feel the same thing with this trilogy, even though this isn't George Lucas, this is J.J. Abrams um, and and Disney. But the same problems present itself. And now I'm going on a tangent and I'm losing my own way. But I think that's my frustration is the fact that I don't fundamentally understand what the big picture was by introducing certain concepts and then never really exploring in the following films. The prequel trilogy had that issue, and this trilogy has that same issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's compelling because of the fact that the prequel trilogy was done by the creator. So like he knows what he was doing, and then the not the prequel, the post trilogy, um, multiple hats were, responsible for it. So I don't know. Like,
I could see that. I was also thinking, like within Disney and Harry Potter, and how they changed out the directors as they went along within the series to try to give it different tones. And maybe that was their initial goal,
mhm,
and it didn't work. And they kind of
mhm.
went back to the kettle. And that's really where I think, uh, Abrams probably had his ideas of where he was going to take it and wanted to, instead of analyzing the second film and trying to create a merger, he wanted to get back to what his probably original plan was, or where he was, which I might say that his original plan was for Kylo to die and Rey to basically carry the Skywalker seed into the next generation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know
And
what? There are things that could have very well been mapped, and Ryan Johnson said, yeah, fuck that. Like,
yeah.
it's like that thing. My phone wanted to let me know that I have to go to bed in an hour. That thing where like when you're a kid, you're like somebody starts a story like, so once upon a time there was an
Mm-hmm.
alligator, and then you pass to the next person. And the alligator was actually a fish, and he wanted to play Parcheesi.
Yeah.
And like where like a story like
And
has
like,
to go
no, it's
off.
an alligator.
Yeah. That almost feels like what Ryan Johnson did to J.J. Abrams. Is like, all right, so there's this bad guy, and his name is Snoke, and
Yeah.
Rey is kidnapped from this planet. Her parents escape, and Ryan Johnson says, "Yeah, well, Snoke is a piece of shit, and oh yeah, by the way, her parents were anybody. You're nobody important, and oh yeah, by the way,
Yeah.
we killed this Jedi that we're supposed to care about." So it felt like
Yeah.
that kind of like game. I mean, cinematically, it looks really good, and it opens some interesting thoughts, but yeah. The the Last Jedi is extremely problematic for trying to find some type of cohesion from what they posed in this. And so when we get to this film, it was like a duel of fates in a sense
Yeah.
of what JJ created versus, hey, this is what Ryan Johnson said. So I'm go, I'm it's problematic and just to put it
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that like yeah, it's Ryan Johnson introduced a whole other world, and JJ's like, well, fuck, okay, we fired this other guy. I kind of liked what I had, but I have to make sense here. But everybody's pissed off because we opened this can of worms, so fuck it. So I don't know. I don't know if there was a way that you could have made, if you're going to bring JJ Abrams back into it, that would have been successful. So maybe that's part of the reason why The Last Skywalker has like the lowest critic score, like among, I think it's among all the
Star
actual
Wars.
Star Wars films. I might be mistaken. In fact, let me take a look here. I'm pull this up. I've got the
Okay.
power of the internet. Here we go. So if we just look critically, Phantom Menace, 54% critic approval. Attack of the Clones, 61. Revenge of the Sith, 79. So at that
All
point,
right. All right.
so at this point, Phantom Menace is the lowest at 54. Solo, 69%. Rogue One, 84%. Dude, I love Rogue One. I like I stand by that. I love Rogue One. A New Hope, 94%. Empire Strikes Back, 93. Return, 83. Force Awakens, 93. Last Jedi, 91. Rise of Skywalker, 51%. Yeah, so it's the lowest. It is the lowest, lower than, again, Phantom Menace. So I think part of that is, yeah, it was a course correct on kind of like an audience backlash to how they felt on The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to make it seem like I'm being crazy, but there was like critically, The Last Jedi was well received, but audiences didn't like it. If you were to go onto Rotten Tomatoes, where I just pulled this, the audience
Mm-hmm.
score is 41%. So critics 91, audience is 41. Audience
Yeah.
is revolted. So let me just even context Rise of Skywalker, critics 51%, audience 86.
Sure.
So that idea of like fan service is
Mm-hmm.
definitely present when it comes to the Rise of Skywalker. That, and there are some badass like action sequences. You got to see the Knights of Ren actually do something. which it
Kind of.
he kind of it
Yeah.
was
You at
he
least get to see them. Yeah.
yeah, you at least get to see them. And they weren't even anybody. They were just fucking stunt actors.
Hmm.
Like so it wasn't like whoop-de-doo. Like nobody had a word or anything. Can I also talk about like the biggest fucking disappointment of the trilogy was like the Chrome Trooper? Like, come on.
Sure.
You're like, she looked badass and then she, whatever.
Long history of killing off cool people.
Long
I
history of cool.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
is it?
Boba Fett had, I think, 3 minutes of total screen time in Empire and then Return of the Jedi before, like the special editions and then bringing it back. Everybody
Episode
went,
one,
oh, it's Boba
everybody's
Fett.
still mad about Darth Maul. Like,
Darth
why are you
Maul.
killing Darth Maul off?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
I
And
think
speaking
on just
of like
those,
bringing
it
people
just
back, like he got
yeah,
sawed in half and they showed up again in Solo. So,
yeah, he did. Well, that another one that where ratings went down. But these films are probably I can't. It's hard for me to imagine other films that are scrutinized in the way these
hmm,
are.
that's a
It,
really good call.
and whenever just kind of looking at the other ones, Phantom Menace, Bat, lowest was the other second lowest score, right? So it's like the two bookends of it have the lowest ones, and in a way, those are probably some of the most anticipated, excited.
Oh,
Oh, this
yeah.
one didn't live up, and that one, in as it's a 9-part series, we want the finale, and everybody. When I think to go, this isn't going to be a pod about the Last Jedi, but I think it will stand out amongst the three as because it is more artistic.
Mhm.
The shots in it are different. The music is a longer movie, and that may be another reason why people. I think it's the longest in this series, but I think that might be a reason why people can't sit there and watch it and have a low opinion of it. But um, I wish they could have played along and just obviously for the success of the franchise. I'm sure
Mhm.
they would go back and go, okay, I wish we could have done it a little bit better this way.
Yeah.
Uh, but the idea of the two apprentices, because in this journey watching Ray and Kyle, it's interesting to me because Luke didn't have anybody else.
Mhm.
Like we watched Luke's story, he's on it on his own, and they have each other, and they grow closer to each other throughout it because, there's the diadem in the Force, but also I think they look at it as you're the only person like me, and we're the only ones who really know what we're going through, and that's just going to bring people together. I think it always kind of has.
Yeah. I want to take a kind of step aside because obviously we've talked a lot about Rey and Kylo and
Mm-hmm.
the film trilogy as a whole, but let's talk a little bit about Finn and Poe
Yeah.
and even to a lesser extent like Rose. How do you feel this film worked with them? Do you feel they had fitting arcs in this movie, or do you feel like they got a little sidelined? And if they got sidelined, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of curious because these are characters that were, well, specifically Poe and Finn were central characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Like, and it's okay, like I said, if you feel they were sidelined because they were looking at a larger, bigger picture, or do you feel they had satisfying arcs for this particular film?
No, I think you're more accurate with being sidelines. They had to share the screen more,
Hmm.
and this is the other flaw with bringing in all the other people, bringing in Lando, or and then C-3PO goes, "This is so and so," and then Poe instead of getting a cool line goes, "Yeah, we know," like it's like
Yeah.
just in case anybody's this is their first Star Wars film, we need to make a line and write in an introduction. It's like there's plenty of that. Too many droids. Even though I did kind of like the idea that the idea of the Force healing, and Carrie Fisher or Leia says it's like you don't underestimate a droid, and she thinks like, oh well, you would charge them up, and the idea of like that Force healing and being able to force somebody came from the
Mhm.
idea of a droid charging somebody up. So I like that little part.
That did work.
Uh,
No, continue.
but well, I just want to go. But yeah, with Finn, one thing I'll say about Finn is he's a man. I think he's going to be okay. Maybe him and Ray end up together now that Kylo's out of the way. But I feel like Rose falls in love with him. I felt like the new girl he met. I just feel like Finn's a ladies' man, and he's going to be
He's a
okay.
stormtrooper, like,
Um, I was surprised to see was it Carrie Russell was in the credits as Poe's girlfriend from like She wears a mask the whole time. Didn't recognize her. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
well, I think that's a little nod to J.J. Abrams because of the fact that she was in Mission Impossible 3. And if memory serves, didn't J.J. Abrams have some involvement with Felicity?
That's it. Yeah, he was the creator of it, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I
right. I'm
believe.
pretty
Yeah,
sure. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
So I think that was kind of, but yeah, that again, an underused, like, oh, we're gonna introduce
Mhm.
somebody, and I think she could have been cool. I like Carrie. I like Carrie Russell. You mentioned some lines, and we talked like the opening crawl, like the dead speak. It's become a meme, but I remember watching this the first time and thinking, um, just I often say how a bit of dialogue can make things work. Like, oh, they forgot this. If you just put in a line of dialogue, it can make it work. This is an example of where a bit of dialogue just doesn't really help your case. Poe Dameron goes, somehow Palpatine returned. Like
Yeah,
that, you can't just throw that line in there. Like, and
yeah.
we're just gonna accept that. It was just such a weird, but it's when you explain things like in a technical term, oh, we'll just do this, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, that makes sense because they said that. It was just a little line of dialogue. This is an example in a movie where just a line of dialogue doesn't help, where
Hmm.
I've long been like, oh, you can solve so many problems just by putting a line of dialogue in there. But somehow Palpatine returned. What do you mean somehow? Like, what does that
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Somehow, people.
yeah.
And not only that, he's got a million Death Stars.
He's got a million fucking like Star Destroyers.
But
Like,
we're gonna but they're all stuck in port right now, and now's our chance. We're gonna fly, and when we get there, we're gonna then call everybody to
yeah.
come around.
Why we didn't do it 5 years earlier, nobody knows, but now's the time. Now's
Yeah.
yeah, like again, holes, and I don't want to make this just beat this movie up because there are, this is the end of a saga. And it's an end of something that you and I have been going on and for years and years. And I remember, I posed a question to you, like, where were you? I remember seeing the movie theater because of the fact that like I wanted yeah, I had heard before I saw like this is a little bit like like fan service.
Hmm.
And at the time, I was kind of ready for it because I was still very, very salty when it came to The Last Jedi. There were things about The Last Jedi I really, really liked aesthetically. Again, I think it looked, I think it was the best looking Star Wars of this trilogy. But there were things that I hated. I hated the Leia thing. I hated Luke just being a fucking curmudgeon. Like I wasn't a fan of that. I did love the taking down of Snoke in the sense like that fight sequence was just badass with him
Hmm.
and Rey like going at it. That was a cool scene. There's a lot going on. The meme that's essentially become Kylo Ren going more. Like when he just like pop 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 pop. And then when Luke does have a little bit of his kind of like moment, toward the end, just kind of like dusting off his like shoulders, even though that's a 21st century kind of like nod.
Hmm.
There were things in the movie that I really enjoyed, but overall, like when the credits rolled, I did feel unfulfilled. I'm like, well, shit, what, where are we gonna go from here? And I wanted to put myself in the adult mode versus how I felt as a child when I saw The Empire Strikes Back for the first time, where that does end on such a bummer. But as a kid, I thought that was the greatest fucking movie ever. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I remember seeing it several times before I ever saw Return of the Jedi, and loving it. So I was kind of curious just to know if that was an age thing or a story thing, or is that a me thing as I matured. But I remember being soured when I saw The Last Jedi. So when this movie came out, I'm like, all right, let's see where it goes. And there were things that I enjoyed, but when the credits finally rolled, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's there are things I like in the film. I like Ray. I more Ray and Kylo Ren. I think, I enjoy seeing those. I liked the what is it? The hyperdrive what is it? The skip
Hyper jumping.
hyper
I,
jumping. I thought that was kind of cool. Like the
yeah.
I thought that was I
Well,
think they introduced some really interesting
mhm.
things that worked within the arc of things that they introduced in this trilogy. What are some other things I liked about it? I don't know. Is there anything else? That might have been the only thing I really actually liked.
They brought John Williams back, but I couldn't even
They
tell you the
did.
score.
Yeah.
But happy they did that.
Yeah. Mhm.
No,
Lando,
I'm with you.
old, that
And
was kind of still kind of cool.
what I'm curious about it, because like you know how much I like episode one, two, and three,
Hmm.
is will the next generation treat these films? Will this be their trilogy? Will they be having debates with their uncles and grandfathers saying, no, this is better. Ours, Ray was way better. It was empowering for people. And, well, because I think that would be the success of a trilogy is if the next generation, they go, no, this is our trilogy and we're gonna defend it. I'm gonna tell you why it's just as good or better than those other ones.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
I
we'll
mean,
see.
if that's the case, good for them. I mean, they'll fundamentally be wrong,
And
but
you'll tell
hey,
them
it's fine.
from the.
Listen, I support anybody for finding personal entertainment in something. But objectively,
Yeah.
storytelling wise, the original trilogy is just better.
Mhm.
Like, yes, yes, I understand there's a level of bias that I have. Yes, I recognize that. But the truth is there as well. The original trilogy, structurally, storytelling wise, understanding character arcs, understanding the hero's journey, which is something that's been told for thousands of years essentially, is far more crisp, and the forces of antagonism are every bit as strong as the those that we are rooting for. And this stories don't have to be complex to be good. I mean, shit, music doesn't have to. Listen, I think Rush is a great band, but fuck, Nirvana had just as many fucking hits because they understood chord like structure and being able to like it does it. You don't have to have 10,000 plots if you understand just beats and being able to move a story forward. One of the weaknesses that the prequel trilogy has is the story arc, and doesn't make somebody dumb for say like I don't follow it. No, the story arc just wasn't strong.
Mhm.
This story arc just wasn't strong. It doesn't mean that it's not entertaining. It doesn't mean that it wasn't a fun ride or a good movie, but from a just a structure understanding, they just don't have the same thing that the original trilogy had.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It doesn't have to. But
Mhm.
people are still wrong if they want to say the new ones are better than the original. You enjoyed
No,
it,
I wouldn't
fine.
say that. I was saying the prequels were better.
Oh, fuck off. Okay. So I've
Yeah.
covered basically what I wanted to cover. I want to pivot over to you and give you the floor because I know that there are things that you potentially wanted to bring to it. But just to recap, I know we've talked, some themes. We've talked character arcs, legacy, the plot. Um, we kind of teetered into technical aspects, i.e., visuals. You referenced John Williams, action sequences. Um, I discussed controversies, and then I think like the bigger picture, like how does this film compare to the rest? We've kind of covered, but
Is Kathleen Kennedy responsible for not doing a better job or
well, there you go. There's also that, but I do want to, and I know we've been chatting for an hour, and I think this has actually been a pretty well organized episode. I think we've done a pretty good
Mhm.
job, but I do want because I know you've had some thoughts and questions that you wanted to toss into the conversation. I'd love to give you the floor.
We've covered most of it. It's just
Okay,
mainly if you like my if you like my theory, if you think Ray might be pregnant or not,
that's
or
interesting.
if you just don't care. Like there's a part of it's just like it's done now. It's finally done.
Mhm.
In they're doing the great job with the other shows and other movies and ready to move on to other stories, but there is still a potential. So it's like, do you even care about this story going forward? In 15 years, another reboot of three more or something.
Okay, I love that. So what I will say, I think. the greatest strength of this trilogy, and I could be on my own here, but I think Daisy Ridler was phenomenal. I really like Daisy Ridler as Rey in this franchise. I think she towed a line of being able to carry an emotional. At least I I tracked her story very empathetically, or maybe sympathetically because I've never been abandoned by my own parents. But, I followed her on this journey, on this planet, and I think she was able to navigate this world. Now, granted, I'm still dumbfounded how she's every bit as good of a pilot as Han Solo, but hey, whatever.
Hmm.
Cool, cool. She's a Jedi slash Han, so she was like literally the best of both Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. But when she was on camera, I I was in her, I was along for the ride. So I think as a leading character, I liked Rey personally. Kylo Ren. I like the idea of Kylo Ren. Um, I would have liked to have seen more of like the Knights of Ren, like I would have liked to have
Hmm.
seen like other than just like backstory, like, oh, we're supposed to fear them, like I would have liked to not to create my own story, but just to see how he separates himself as the leader of that, just kind of like these are all these badasses, but he's like, no, 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 no. I'm the fucking badass and
Yeah.
I'm going to take on this throne. And it's just like somebody that's very power hungry. I would have been intrigued by that. Um, so he's dead now, so it doesn't matter. But if I were to see if this franchise were to continue, it would have to be Rey's story, and to see where that goes from for her, I don't know. Would I watch it? Of course I would. Of course I would watch it. Would I have very high hopes? No. No, but I'd be compelled. I feel this I feel they introduced some ideas, but they didn't know they weren't in the writer's room long enough to figure out what they wanted to do because they did want to give the writer director again that game of Once Upon a Time there was an alligator. All right, now your story. No, it's not an alligator. It's a fucking octopus.
It's a butterfly. Yeah.
No, but I really want an alligator. We're gonna bring an
Yeah.
alligator back, but we're gonna kill everything else. Like
Yeah.
the story structure, I think they should have had an idea from A to Z, but allow the
Mhm.
filmmaker to have the autonomy to change a little bit here, but know what the structure was. Um, and then you've got Lupita Nyong'o. I apologize for butchering her name, but she's this 800-year-old alien that apparently, knew a lot of things, and she felt underutilized. I thought she
Hmm.
was going to be a larger piece of the
How
story.
did she get Luke's lightsaber?
Yeah, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Where did
uh,
that come from as it was calling out? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there were just these things that were introduced that they didn't stick the landing in the end. They brought up some interesting ideas. I mean, shit, critically, uh, the episode 7 critically did well. Audience wise, did really well. Then the next one, critically did really well, and the audience is like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Because
Hmm.
they did like Ryan Johnson did retcon, everything that they set up because it's like, well, this feels a little bit too much like, the first Star Wars, so I'm gonna do something completely different. But and I don't want to go back and beat a dead horse because I think we've covered this, but this trilogy is just very problematic because the first and the third film feel very connected.
Hmm.
The second film doesn't, but I do feel the second film is more interesting than either the first or the third. So it's just weird. So if I were to want another trilogy, to go back to your question, yeah, I would want to see Ray, but like I don't know what it means. I don't know what would be the story. And to follow up on your question, whether she's pregnant, I think they can easily dump that in there because of the fact that everything else is fucking like on the table in this franchise. Like they could just say, oh, by the way, she was 7 months pregnant when they force connected, or by doing that force connect, he made her pregnant. I'd be like, all right,
Yeah.
fine. It makes sense. I mean, Princess Leia can float through space and not freeze to death. I'm fine.
Sure.
Whatever. Fuck it. Let's go. Um,
Well, I got bad news for the galaxy because I was thinking about it, and it's been at civil war for about 60 years now,
hmm,
and the imperial government just got overthrown, and I don't know if they're going back to planetary government or if they, but all I gotta like at the end of it, all I gotta know is like it seems like all like the military forces have been wiped out on
hmm,
both sides, and we know the good guys won, but I have no idea who's taking charge
hmm. Until the
anymore.
new
And
world order, and then we're now in modern days, and it's like 80s hip hop. Like
yeah,
it's like there we go. NWO is here now instead of first order, last order, new world order. Um,
yeah. Well, we just skipped the final order. I think that
it's
was
true.
yeah.
It's true.
Uh,
Um, Okay, let's get into the wrap up. And I know this is, may the fourth be with you. I don't want this to end, so I do want to periodically, maybe every year we do something Star Wars related. And maybe next year we do kind of a breakdown of all nine films, or maybe you're interested in having that conversation now. But I think there could be a full episode of us just doing a ranking of the nine episodes. You make your nine, I make my nine, and then
mm,
we have to come to agreement. We have to agree. Like, no, no, no. This is the number one. This is the number
mm,
nine. And it's a whole episode. It's kind of a law. It's kind of like a courtroom. Like, all right, this is your case. This is my case. You plead your case, and when it's done, we are in complete agreement. I think there could be an episode. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking something different, or if you're interested right now, just say, no, that seems a little too heady. Let's just say how you would want to rank them. So I do want to like see what are your thoughts?
oh, if, whatever you want to invite me back for, I'm in.
Right
I'm
on.
I'm available. I'm here, man. I love talking to you. And whatever the plan or idea, I like that. If people want to hear maybe commentary on Andor and or
Oh
something like
yeah.
that, kind of go in a little different direction, or if it could just be with some of the sides, like, hey, talk about Obi-Wan, which might mean you got to watch some of the Obi-Wans, or talk about Andor, or talk about, we could just talk about Solo, or like Ben, Han Solo and what his, because we've now seen most of his life or whatnot. But
Mhm.
we
Or
can get
maybe
into characters or whatever. But I'm here, man. I love talking to you, especially about Star Wars.
yeah, I mean, or we've completed it and now's the time to do like Game of Thrones. I don't know. I don't know. But
Sure. Well,
all
Night of
right.
the Seven Kingdoms is coming out, and or I think that's what they're going to end up calling it. Tales of Dunk and Egg.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, do
but
you see that I've got I'm wearing a shirt for the theme. I've got a little Millennium Falcon going on here
Millennium,
for the listeners.
absolutely. I definitely, absolutely. You'd be my captain. You are my
Hey,
captain.
all right. Ooh, okay. So if you were a character in Star Wars, who would you
Uh
be?
huh. Out of all of them, I
Hmm.
mean, I'd want to be Obi-Wan. And I know seems a little bit of a lonely life and stuff, but uh, yeah, no, he was always my favorite. How about yourself? I mean, are you a flyboy? Or are you one of those
Hmm.
guys?
If I were to be a character in Star Wars, um,
Ledge.
I mean, he survives all the way through. And he's a hell of a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not nearly smart ass enough to be either um Han or Poe. I could never be either of them. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I were
R2. R2 seems to be the
R2,
most
no,
smart.
I wouldn't be R2 or C3PO. I'm not Luke. I think the right answer that I too would always want to be like Obi-Wan. I think every like real Star Wars, like true like of the legacy, like Obi-Wan's, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, no, I'd be like Qui-Gon. No, like Qui-Gon in the end was a dipshit. I love him, but yeah.
Well, I'll be Qui-Gon. He seems to be a little bit more of like a hippie mystic. Uh, So I'll go Qui-Gon. But or I was thinking I could be Chewie too, because Chewie's like the fun sidekick that might get a little loud, but doesn't talk all that. Doesn't talk too much, but I can see myself being a Chewie to you being you'd be my Han. So
All right. Here we go. I've got a couple questions for you. We've covered most of these, so I'm gonna have to
sure.
admit.
Oh,
So,
please shoot. Yeah, I wanted to see what you got. See how I can
right.
do.
I mean, most of these we've already covered. But question number one, true or false? This to date was John Williams' final Star Wars score.
True.
True. True is correct. Um, True or false? John Williams plays a bartender in this film. He gets a cameo as a bartender in this
Well,
film.
I'm gonna go ahead and say true.
True.
That's
Oma
a good one. I
Dress,
didn't.
which is an anagram for maestro
Nice. True. Trying to think of what bar they were at. But
on the
anyways,
planet
okay.
with Kerry Russell.
I got you.
Um, yep. So he's in the film. Um, no wrong answer. I'll just see how many you get. How
Mm.
many previous Jedi voices does Rey hear in her final battle?
I'll say five.
Okay, who do you remember hearing?
Well, I was thinking it would be Luke, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Yoda, and I was thinking Mace might be in there as well. You
Anakin,
know, Mace.
Yoda. Yep, exactly. But 10. She hears 10 different voices.
But is it different actors?
Hmm.
So like Alec Guinness,
Hmm.
also Ewan McGregor.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. Do. True or false? Ian McDiarmid knew Palpatine would return before production started.
I'll just say false. I didn't.
False. He had no idea. So even as
Yeah.
they were beginning to make the movie, he had no idea that he was even going to be in the film. I think that's problematic. That again, that Palpatine was a last minute addition to the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so in what year did Carrie Fisher pass away?
2017,
Ooh, so close, 2016.
16. Okay.
And then just one final. Um, I'm gonna change that one and we'll do who said the line? They win by making you think you're alone. I don't care if you know who the name of the character, but who said that? They win by making you think you're alone.
Well, Poe says it at one point.
Who did
Remember, they. Uh, but I thought that Carrie Fisher's character tells it to him. Um,
You are
yeah.
correct. You are correct.
Okay.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So that's where that comes from. A
Mm-hmm.
cool looking character. I like the costume. Like that was badass. So yeah, what was it? Zori Bliss, uh, uh,
Yeah.
was the
But that's another part with the scenes. It's just where he's just like, I know where to go. Follow me. And he turns the corner, and all of a sudden he's got a gun in his head. It's like, oh, I guess that's how we get. That's how we get out of this.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so there are a lot of things that didn't quite work. Let's see here. One of my favorite lines in the film, which is just kind of a little like nod to the previous film. Again, kind of like that whole idea of retconning, but also retconning
Mm-hmm.
some of the stuff in the previous film. A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect. Luke
Yeah.
Skywalker said it because,
Yeah.
like a nod to him throwing it. And people were like, what the fuck? Why would he throw his lightsaber? And then his Force Ghost says, "A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect." Um, and then the only other quote that I had is somehow Palpatine returned, which
Mm-hmm.
again is just a line that it's
Well,
meme.
yeah. Well, Lando gets one of those. I got a bad
Oh
feeling.
yeah, yeah. You get your quintessential. I got a bad feeling about this. That's right. I did make a note. Who said that? That was on my trivia question, but I didn't ask that one. Yeah, so Lando.
Mhm.
I think it
Yeah,
was every film somebody said it, but in this movie, he definitely did say it.
great. Great. And Chewie got his medal finally.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So one of the best moments of like fan like service was Chewie finally getting his medal.
Mhm.
Okay, a couple fun facts. Mentioned Ian McDiarmid did not expect to return. The film's opening crawl was written last minute, according to co-writer Chris Terrio. The famous Star Wars opening crawl wasn't finalized until just before release. Harrison Ford's cameo was a secret. Um, And then the final word, Rey Skywalker. She didn't know until late in production that Rey would take on the Skywalker name. It was a late story decision to provide closure and thematic resolution. Um, and then to answer your question, Rey hears Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Freddie Prinze Jr. I guess he's in one of like the animated like Rebels
Okay.
show, just to name a few. Um, and there are a couple other voices, but apparently Freddie Prinze Jr. is in one of like the animated shows. I cannot confirm that, but he was one of the voices.
Okay. Well, if it had Hayden Christensen, it would have had an Anakin. So
Mhm.
I don't know if he played young Anakin, and yeah. Um, but I'm glad to hear his name. Hope he's still doing well. I still remember what he did last summer, but
You know, there's another one coming out.
oh really?
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
whole new generation, but I think Sarah Michelle Gellar returns. I can't remember
no,
if Freddie Prinze Jr.
Jennifer Love
survived
Hewitt.
it or not, but maybe he.
Sarah Michelle Gellar's dead. She was one of the first ones. It's Jennifer Love Hewitt who lives and go.
That's right. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar are married in real
that's
life.
true.
That's what it is.
That
Yes.
is
Yes. Yes.
true.
Yes. Jennifer Love Hewitt is in the new I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't know about Freddie Prinze Jr. Can't remember if he survived. I'll have to go back and watch that or not. I don't know. But dude, John, this has been so much fun. Not to say this one was a little bit more succinct, but I think we had some good structure on this episode. I think we raised some really fun conversational pieces. This is our first episode to ever do on camera. I will get this out on YouTube, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you already know that. Um, but what are your final thoughts now that we have done 9 of these? What are your final thoughts on this venture? You know, we did Bill and Ted, you know, we did
Hmm.
that trilogy, and then we've done 9 plus 2 of these over the
Sure.
past 4 years, really.
Uh, well, I'm just happy to have been able to spend the time with you. It's been great. I enjoyed how we did the Batman,
Mm.
where we were able to kind of break it down a little bit more by genres.
Hmm.
So, in hindsight, perhaps it could have been done, but um, we were young. We were young and had so much promise, and we tried. We tried our best, people. And thank you for bearing with us and listening to us. It's always a blast and a pleasure to come on and talk to my friend Andrew. And just thank you for listening.
Well, John, thank you as always. You are always welcome anytime you want to talk about any movie or music, because we've had a really good episodes just by talking about like soundtracks as well. But dude, anytime I get to chat with you is always a pleasure. I love having you as a friend, and everybody needs a John Rowe, and I'm glad that I have the real John Rowe as my best friend. So thank you, and to the listeners out there, thank you very much for going on this particular journey. Of course, we've got more episodes in store for you, but that's it for the Skywalker saga, as far as we know, until Rey comes back in another episode. Because Star Wars really likes to stick with, even though the galaxy goes, wait, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, we like to stick within like a 70-year age gap, even though we can go hundreds of years before that, or even 100 years after that. We like this particular time frame. So who knows? Maybe there will be another Star Wars at that deals with Skywalker. But I guess the question you asked for me is because you asked if I would be interested. One, would you be interested in going on another journey with Rey, or would you rather see another era of of Star Wars, maybe Old Republic, or maybe post this, where Skywalker is kind of like synonymous with I'm not trying to be, blasphemous, but like synonymous with this legacy of like a Jesus like person that like Skywalker is a name that everybody knows in the galaxy, and it's somebody that like
Mhm.
did something monumental many, many years ago in the form of a sacrifice. People know it, but it's a new era, Old Republic, this era. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would rather go back to the Knights of the Old Republic, like from the video game. Go far back. Go and then just use the TV series to expand the world
Hmm.
around it. You know, you could tell the story about how Palpatine comes back, probably in Boba Fett or something like that,
Mhm.
because he comes back after Return of the Jedi. So yeah, I'd rather just go to a whole new world, and that's a world too where I think if you want to have something super artistic-y like The Last Jedi, it would be set up beautifully for that because it's an more archaic time. But I'm sure you could also have little friendly things too because there's different planets in this.
Yeah,
I want to go long ago.
let's go. Yeah. Long, long,
But no,
long
I
ago in a galaxy not
but
as far back or far
mhm.
away, but still pretty far away.
Still
Uh,
pretty far away. Yeah, a
Pretty
little
far away.
further than you think. To tell the
Yeah.
story about when the Mandalorians came to try to take over the Empire. Like, it's that same, oh, the Empire's taken over, but it's the Mandalorians this time. And there's a whole bunch of Jedi. So, yeah, I'd rather have some different stories. I'd like to see that other movie just to see if I was right. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't mind 10 years from now being like, I was the one who said that Ray was pregnant. I told
That'd be good
everybody and
too.
nobody wanted to believe me.
I'd be on board.
Uh, but yeah, no, let's change it up. Let's get to some new stuff. And and I think we will see it. I heard there's a Starfighter coming out with is it Chris Evans or something like that. think he's got one that's just called
Oh,
Starfighter coming out.
oh yeah, I don't know if it's I think there's Ryan Gosling. Ryan
Is that
Gosling.
who it is?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling's coming. So maybe that's what we're gonna cover is like I'll believe it when I see it. I know I just saw like
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Gosling do like wait, Ryan Gosling in Star Wars?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, that's not fair. He's
Mm-hmm.
already like amazing, and now he's gonna be in a Star Wars movie. I'm not ready for this. But hey, if that happens, I'll definitely see it on opening night just because I do love freaking Star Wars films.
Star
You know,
Wars.
it's amazing. Like John, like I see all these movies immediately, and like I want to like them, but it's just one of those like, God damn it, like every
Yeah.
time.
The
Although
hope.
I have enjoyed Andor, I have enjoyed that journey because it's just a different look, because it's
Mm-hmm.
really focusing on the rebellion itself, and I'm just kind of I don't know. It's the closest thing Star Wars has had to like Game of Thrones in many ways. Like it's you're focusing on, quite literally like moving chess pieces on a board,
Yeah.
and that to me has been why I've enjoyed that journey, is just to see Mon Mothma, and like everything is going on, like all all the manipulation that's going on behind the scenes there. It's just a different level because it hasn't necessarily been a Jedi story, although I enjoy that. This Andor story has just been, for me as an audience member, quite compelling, and I've kind of enjoyed it. Um, Certainly season one and a couple episodes, or rather, a couple scenes in season two that I love the wedding sequence, and for
Sure. I thought I was watching a Florence and the Machines video.
dude, that was badass. I loved it. I loved
All of a
it.
sudden, there was this new droid, and I go, "Who's this party droid?"
Party droid. Yeah, that should be
Party
the
droid
name. Party
pumping
droid.
out the jams. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been great, and it'll be fun. We'll give us more to talk about. But
I think that's
yeah,
how we wrap this episode up. To the listeners, I will be back for another episode. John will be back at some time. Once he and I kind of take a look and see what we would like to unpack with you again. But as always, thank you very much. And if you're still joining us, please visit my website, stampercinema.com. You can take a look at all the back catalog episodes. I've got blogs. I've got ways that you can subscribe. I've got ways that you can donate to the show, leave reviews, whatever. But it's my website, stampercinema.com. And of course, you can check us out on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this now. And assuming that everything goes according to plan, you are also able to watch this particular episode on YouTube. So we'll see. But until next time, thank you very much, John. I allow you the opportunity, or grant you, or I extend the privilege of allowing you to close this on out.
Well, thanks, y'all. Have a good year. That's all. That's all I got. Just
Dude, yeah. Have a good year.
yeah, have a good year.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you next time on another episode of Stamper Cinema.